Hey YouTube, welcome to another video lesson. All right, today we're going to do an intermediate lesson, which is long overdue. I've got one up. And honestly, the reason really for that is, well, I've been trying to get these other videos up, but, trying to define what I would consider to be intermediate is a little bit harder than choosing something that's beginner or something that's advanced. So any of these that I choose as intermediate, for some they might not be intermediate. For others they might be more advanced. So I think it's sort of kind of going to depend on the student. But anyway, I just that's kind of one of the reasons that I've been a little bit slow with the intermediate stuff. But what I want to talk about today is different ride patterns. Okay, in my beginner series. The main ride pattern that we're using is just eighth notes, all right? And that's the most common, and that's what you're going to be doing a lot of. It's kind of the bread and butter, I think, of a lot of basic drum set playing, especially in pop and rock and funk and stuff. So I want to talk about some other ride patterns, okay? That we'll be doing on the hi-hat as well as the ride cymbal, and of course you can do it on other spots as well, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to start off using eighth notes, okay? And I want to show you just a couple of basic patterns that you can do using eighth notes, okay? All right, so the first one we're going to do is going to be on the ride cymbal, okay? And this is going to utilize the bell. Now, in the beginner series video, I talked about riding on the bell, but I talked about playing all the eighth notes on the bell: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, on this one we're gonna split it up. Okay, we're gonna split the bell and the body of the cymbal up. So we're gonna start off putting the bell on the downbeat, and then the body of the cymbal on the upbeat. Okay, so we're gonna go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, and then I'm gonna flip that around and put the bell on the upbeat and the body of the cymbal on the downbeat, which would go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so I'm going to play that for you. I'm going to do both just so you can hear it, and I'll do it nice and slow, and I'll use a simple bass drum pattern. But once again, any of these ride patterns, you want to be able to do them with any bass drum pattern ultimately. Okay, so let's play a little bit of that and see what it sounds like. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. On both those examples, the bell was playing on either the downbeat or the upbeat, and then I'd hit with the tip of the stick on the body of the cymbal on the other count. So I either went on the bell, I would hit with this part of the stick, and then the body of the cymbal I'd hit with the tip. So I'd go 1 and 2 and, or 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? Now on the hi-hat, you could do the same thing using the hi-hat bark, and some of this, or at least one of these I referenced in my hi-hat bark beginning video. Okay, so what I mean by that is now we'll move back over to the hi-hat, and we'll use the hi-hat bark in place of the bell. So at first we'll start off putting the hi-hat bark in the downbeat and going hi-hat bark on 1, tip of the stick on a tight closed hi-hat on the and, hi-hat bark on 1, closed hi-hat on the and then reverse that. Put the hi-hat bark on the and the closed hi-hat on the downbeat. Okay, so I'll play both of those so you can hear that as well. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. Similar to what we did on the ride cymbal on the hi-hat, I put the hi-hat bark on the downbeat, and then I also put it on the upbeat. Okay, so again, we're just taking eighth notes, okay, but instead of playing them all the same, okay, we're emphasizing one count or accenting one count over another. Okay, either 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, or 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, now on the hi-hat or the ride cymbal, you could also play this without a bark or a bell. Okay, in other words, play the eighth notes on a tight hi-hat, all of them, but instead of playing them all the same, you can add this lilt, okay, as I call it, okay, which gives it a different feel. All right, so when you do this, on the hi-hat, you're playing the accented note with the taper of the stick on the side of the hi-hat, and then playing the unaccented note with the tip of the hi-hat on top, okay? I'm going to do that for you real quick so you can see what that looks like and sounds like. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. So again, you're just emphasizing either the downbeat or the upbeat while playing the opposite count quiet. Okay. All right, so let's try some other right patterns. Okay. Let's try 16th notes. Okay. Now there's going to be a ton of ways that you can do 16th notes. Okay. So we're going to start off with just playing continuous 16th notes. Okay. And you got two main ways that you can do this. You can either play the 16th notes two-handed, okay, going right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, or you can play the 16th notes one-handed, okay. Now, usually in slower and medium tempo songs, you'll play the 16th notes one-handed, while faster is usually done with two hands, but not always, okay. The difference between the two isn't just based upon tempo, it's also feel. Okay, the feel of playing the 16th notes two-handed sounds a lot different. It has a different vibe and groove than one-handed. Okay, and you'll hear that because it's one of those things that it's easier just to play it so you can hear it as opposed to try to describe it in words. Okay, So with this, we're going to add a backbeat on 2 and 4, and I'll keep the bass drum simple, okay? And again, with all these different ride patterns, once you get comfortable with it, definitely try to do more with your bass drum underneath, okay? So I'm going to start off doing the 16th notes one-handed, okay? And then I will switch to 2 hands, okay? So you can hear what that sounds like. Okay, so I hope that made sense. So again, 16th notes, continuous 16th notes, backbeat 2 and 4. Okay, bass drum pattern, whatever you want it to be. So I did these a couple of different ways. So I started off with the one-handed, okay, 16th notes. And you notice with that, I accented the 8th note. I went 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and okay. And then I also did a couple ways where I played on the side of the hi-hat where I went 1 E and 2 E and then I did it on top of the hi-hat, which gave it a thinner sound. Okay, both these are viable, and depending on the musical situation, one might be a better fit over another. Then I did 2 hands on the hi-hat. I did that on the side. I did it on the top. Also did it with a sloshy hi-hat effect. Again, so all the textures that we've already learned so far can apply to all these different ride cymbal or ride pattern variations. So experiment with that. Okay, so that's 16th notes. All right. So let's talk about some other 16th note type ride patterns that you can do, and there's 2 that I want to go over. Okay, one is the 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4 rhythm. Okay, 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 1. Okay, this is another really good pattern that can be played just all of it on the ride cymbal or all of it on the hi-hat. You can then take the downbeat, the 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 1, and you can take that accent and put it on a bell or a hi-hat bark. Okay, I'm gonna do all that for you right now, just so you can see it. Okay, so again, the pattern is 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 1. Okay, let's try that. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. All right, 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4. Okay, so I started off first on the ride cymbal, and I just played all those notes even with the tip of the stick on the ride, 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4. I then took the downbeat and I moved the downbeat to the bell. All right, and went 1, tip, tip, taper on the bell, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, like that. Okay. Then I came over to the hi-hat. All right. Now you could play all the notes evenly on the hi-hat. Now I didn't do that, but you definitely could do that. You could play at the tip of the stick on top and just go 1 and the 2 and the 3, all the notes nice and even. But the way I did just a second ago was I on the side of the hi-hat here, I accented the downbeat. I went 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Okay, and then I made that downbeat a hi-hat bark. I went 1 and like that. Okay. And so with there, the hi-hat bark is opening on the downbeat and closing on the upbeat. Okay, so it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Okay, just like that. All right, so that's so those ride patterns are definitely harder. Okay, because and it's definitely harder to add more bass drum notes underneath or ghost strokes underneath. So just go slow and take your time with it. Okay. So the other ride pattern I want to do is kind of the counterpart to the rhythm we just did, and that is going 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. Okay, so that's going to be our rhythm, and again I'm going to cover the ride cymbal and the hi-hat. Okay, I'll start with just playing with the tip of the stick, all 3 notes evenly on the body of the ride. And then I'll move the upbeat to the bell. I'll go 1 E and 2 E and, okay. And then I'll come over here to the hi-hat and I'll play all the notes on the hi-hat. And again, with that, you could play all of them evenly on top of the hi-hat, or you can move that and to the side to give it a slight emphasis. And then I'll make that and a hi-hat bark. So as you can tell, there's lots of different little varieties and variations you can do with each of these ride patterns. Okay, so I'll go through all of them and I'll try to do it slow. Okay. Okay, so I hope that made sense. Again, the entire time I'm just playing 1 E N, 2 E N, 3 E N, 4 E N. but just doing it in a couple of different ways. Okay, so again, I hope I did that slow enough. So let me know if you have any questions, and I can try to go a little bit more in depth on explaining it if need be. So just let me know. So that's basically it. But actually, there's one more I want to do really quick that I actually meant to start with. And this is a real simple one, but I think it's often overlooked a little bit, and that is quarter notes. Just simple quarter notes. Okay. Now, for a beginner, playing quarter notes can be really difficult, mainly because your bass drum will be playing on counts that your right hand isn't. Okay. But this is an important rhyme pattern to do for two reasons. Okay. One, at slower and medium slow or medium tempos, it gives you a more open sounding groove, okay, that has more space and is able to breathe more. And also, using quarter notes helps you to play at faster tempos, okay? So again, we're just going 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate that. And again, you could do this on the hi-hat, on any texture, but I'm just going to do it on the hi-hat just to showcase that. But you can do it anywhere. Okay, so let me kind of go over that real quick because I meant to do that starting off. I just forgot. So let's go over that real fast. All right, let's check it out. There you have it, quarter notes. Okay, so as you can tell, at slower and more moderate tempos, it gives the groove a more open feel. And then at faster tempos, it allows you to play faster with a lot less effort. And I'm sure you've heard lots of songs that are at the speed that play that and even faster. That there's just no way you're going to be able to do eighth notes. And even if you could, you're not going to be able to sustain it. Okay, so it's much easier to switch to quarter notes. Okay, and a lot of songs, again, have a more quarter note drive as opposed to an eighth note drive. So again, the music really kind of dictates what you should do. But quarter notes are very common. All right, so I definitely recommend adding that to your arsenal. And so this gives you a wide range of what I think are the most common ride patterns that you'll come across, at least in beginner and intermediate styles of music and songs. So, and your goal with all of them is you want to be able to play any beat that you can play against eighth notes on the hi-hat. You want to be able to do with any other ride pattern. Okay. So in other words, you don't want to let what your right hand is doing dictate what your bass drum is able to do. Okay. So any bass drum patterns you can do against eighth notes, you want to make sure you can do those same patterns against any of these other ride patterns. Okay. So I think that concludes it. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that gave you some different ideas of different ride patterns that you can do. And and these ride patterns, you could also do them on other surfaces. On a lot of these I didn't cover. I just kind of covered the hi-hat and ride cymbal because they're the most common. But you definitely can do some more interesting things using some of the other voices. So again, as always, experiment. All right, that's how you're going to get the best results. All right, and the most fun out of these things. Okay, so hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys next time. All right, take care.